All right. Department 1 of the Superior Court is now in session. The judge of the court, aming BEDA, District Attorney Daniel ALBASIN, Public Defender Mujahid NAWAL, Clerk RAYHANA SALIH, Deputy District Attorney NAJEEF ALIPOLO, Car Owner AL-SAUD BANSUAN, Court Reporter RASID TALIB, Police Officer MAMAILA MANANGKING, Expert NESREEN SUMLAY, Defendant ALDRINE BESSITT, the accused MENTANG MONTASER. Please be seated.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Calling the case of the people of the Philippines versus ALDRINE BESSITT. Are both sides is ready.
Ready for the people, Your Honor.
Ready for the defense, Your Honor. Will the clerk please swear in the jury?
Well, the jury, please stand and raise your right hand. Do each of you swear that we will fairly try the case before the court and that we will return a true verdict according to the evidence and the instruction of the court. So help you God. Please be seated.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant has been charged with the crime of driving or taking a car belonging to someone else. Without the permission of the owner, the evidence will show that a 204 Corvette was stolen on the night of February 8. The next day, the defendant was arrested driving the stolen car. The defendant's fingerprints were on the case used to steal the car. The evidence I present will prove to you that the defendant is guilty as charged.
Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, under the law of my client is presumed innocent until proven guilty. During this trial, you will hear no real evidence, Mr. against client. You will come to know the truth that Mr. ALDRINE was just riding in the car stolen by someone else. After finding out that car was stolen, Mr. ALDRINE was just trying to do the right things by returning the car to its owner. Thereof, my client is not guilty. The prosecution may call it first witness.
The people call the owner of the car.
Owner of the car, please come here in the front. Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case before this court shall be truth, the whole truth, the nothing but truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please state your first name and last name.
I am AL-SAUD BANSUAN.
Please be seated.
Please spell your last name for the record.
BANSUAN. Mr. AL-SAUD, where do you work?
I own Martinez Car Sales,
What is the address of your business?
102 Main Street, Martinez.
Were you working there on February 8?
Yes, I was.
Was one of the cars you had for sale a 204 red Corvette license number 5CBX239?
Yes,
Did you see the car on the lot on February 8?
yes, the car were on close that night.
Did you see the car again on February 9?
No, it was missing when I got to work in that morning.
Where were the keys to the Corvette when you left on February 8?
They were locked in the sales office.
Where are the keys when you came back the next morning?
They were still locked in the sales office.
Did you file a stolen car report with the police?
Yes, I did.
Had you given anyone, including the defendant, permission to take or drive the Corvette?
No, I did not.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any question?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. The prosecution may call the next witness.
The people call the arresting officer.
Mr. Officer, please come here in the front.
Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case now before the court shall be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your first and last name.
MAMAILA MANANGKING.
Please be seated.
Please spell your last name for the record.
MAMAIA.
Officer, where do you work?
I have worked for the Davao City Highway Patrol for the past 10 years.
Were you on duty on the afternoon on February 9?
Yes, I was patrolling the freeway between the San Ramon and Martinez.
Did you observe the red 204 Corvette that afternoon?
Yes, I did.
What was the license number?
5CBX239.
Where did you first see the car?
Going north near the exit to Highway 4.
Why did you notice the car?
It fit the description of a car which was on our list of stolen vehicles.
Did you stop the Corvette?
Yes, I turned on my light and steering pulled the car over.
Where did you stop the car?
About half a mile before the downtown Martinez exit.
What did you do after the car stopped?
I ordered the driver to step out and arrest him here.
Do you see the driver here in court?
Yes, the report will show that the witness has identified the defendant sitting at the defense table.
After you arrested the defendant, did you search the car?
Yes,
What did you find?
I found a set of keys in the ignition.
Are these keys you found?
Yes,
Your Honor, I would like to have this case marked as People's Exhibit number 1 and ask that they be admitted into evidence.
Does the defense have any objection?
No, Your Honor.
The case will be admitted as People Exhibit number 1.
Officer, was there anything unusual about this case?
yes, based on my experience as highway patrol officer, they look like safe master case.
Can you please tell the jury what Shipmaster case are?
Yes, they are the cases that have been built down so that they will start on models of type of car. They are used as tools to steal cars.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to ask any question?
Yes, Your Honor. Officer, when you pull the car over, you order to my claim to turn off the ignition. Didn't not you?
Yes, I did.
So you saw the defendant touch the case?
Yes,
Do you know how far Martinez started from the downtown Martinez freeway exit?
yes, it's about half a mile from there.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
The witness is excused. Does the prosecution have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The people called the fingerprint examiner.
Expert witness, please come here in the front.
Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case now before the court shall be true, the whole truth, the nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please state your first and last name.
NESREEN SUMLAY.
Please be seated.
Please spell your last name for the record.
SUMLAY.
Miss Nesreen, where do you work?
I am employed by the Contra Costa Country Office Department. I have been qualified fingerprint examination for 10 years.
Have you ever seen this case?
Yes, I was asked to check them for fingerprint at my lab.
Did you find any fingerprints on the case as a result of your testing?
Yes, there were several clear print impressions.
Were you able to identify the defendant prints on the case?
Yes, the print I found on two of the case were identical to the fingerprint taken from the defendant.
Thank you. I have no further questions and no other witnesses, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any question?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Nesreen, as a matter of fact, you also found fingerprint on the case which did not belong to the defendant, didn't you?
That is correct.
To whom do they belong?
I don't know.
Thank you. I have no further question, Your Honor.
The witness is excused.
Your Honor, the people rest their case.
Is the defense reading with its case?
Yes, Your Honor. I call the defendant.
The defendant, please come bring the front.
Raise your right hand. Do you promise that the testimony you shall give in the case now before the court shall be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please state your first and last name.
I am ALDRINE BESSITT.
Please be seated.
Thank you.
Please spell your last name for the record.
BESSITT.
Mr. BESSITT, where were you on the afternoon on February 9?
I was at 7-Eleven store on South Main Street in Walnut Creek.
Did you see the 2004 red Corvette at the location?
Yes. A guy pulled into a parking lot driving it.
Did you talk to the driver?
Yes. I asked him how fast it was.
What did he say?
He did to get in the car and he would show me.
What did you do then?
I got in the car and he drove onto freeway going south toward Danville. He was driving really fast.
Do you know what the driver's name was?
Yes, he told me his name was Rick.
What was his last name?
I don't know. He never told me.
Had you ever met him before?
No?
Did he tell you where he got the car?
He said he had stolen the car.
When did he tell you that?
When we were on the freeway
How far did you ride with them?
to San Ramon, he didn't stop before then.
What happened when you reached San Ramon?
He said he was getting out and I could have the car.
Did you take the car at that time?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I started to drive to Martinez so I could return the car.
Did you know where to return it?
Rick told me he took it from a car lot in Martinez.
Where were you when the officer arrested you?
On the freeway, just before the exit to downtown Martinez.
Do this key belong to you?
No?
Have you ever seen them before?
Yes. They were in the Corvette.
Did you touch them?
Yes. When I turned the car off after the officer stopped me.
Thank you, Mr. Aldrin. I have no further question and no other witness, Your Honor.
Does the prosecution have any question?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Alden BESSITT, what did this rig look like?
I don't remember exactly. He had the black hair.
What kind of clothes was he wearing?
I'm not sure. Jeans, I think, and a t-shirt.
So you just got into this car with someone that you didn't know and had never ever seen before?
Yes, I had never been in a Corvette before.
Did it occur to you at any time to call the police?
Sure, but there wasn't a phone where we stopped and I don't have a cell phone. Once I started back, I just kept driving.
You wanted to drive the Corvette because it was a fast car, didn't you?
I guess so.
You knew the car was stolen at the time you were driving it, didn't you?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
The witness is excused. Thus, the defense is raised.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am now going to read you the law that you must follow in the deciding this case. To prove the crime charged against defendant, the prosecution must prove three things to you. First things, that the defendant drove or took a car belonging to someone else. Second, that the owner did not give the defendant permission to drive or take the car. And the third, that the defendant intended to take away the owner's right to have the car, either permanently or temporarily. If of you believes that the prosecution proved all three of these things beyond reasonable doubt, then you should find the defendant guilty. But if you believe the prosecution did not prove any one of these things beyond reasonable doubt, then you must find the defendant not guilty. Proof beyond reasonable doubt, that means beyond all possible doubt. It means that you must consider all the evidence and that you are every sure that the charge is true. Are you ready with the final arguments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the judge has told you that we must prove three things. There is absolutely no questions about the first two things we must prove. First, the defendant was arrested driving a car belonging to the owner of Martinez Car Sales. Second, the owner testified that no one, including the defendant, had the permission to drive or take the Corvette. Therefore, all we have to prove is that the defendant drove the car and intended to keep it away from the owner for at least a little while. The defendant admitted wanting to drive the Corvette because it was fast. The defendant knew the car was stolen and says that he or she even know about the calling the police for driving it. But the defendant didn't even try to walk a telephone instead of driving the car, and didn't even try to stop anywhere between San Ramon and Martinez to call the police. That shows that the defendant intended to keep the car for at least a little while. According to what the judge just told you, that is all we have to prove based on the evidence. You must find the defendant guilty.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Mr. BESSITT was unlikely to get into a car with a man who had stolen the car. He got into the car because he had never been in a Corvette before. My client's fingerprints were found on the case because he had to touch them. Then the officer pulled the car over. But the prosecution owner told you that other fingerprints were found, those the key would not be identified. I suggest to you that they belongs to that real chief, Rick, or Mr. BESSITT is an honest person and was only trying to return the car to its owner. If had meant to keep the car, why would she drive it back to Martinez? Remember that under the law, my client is presumed to be innocent. The prosecution must prove every part of it beyond a reasonable doubt. That means that you must be very sure. One of the things they must prove is that my client intended to keep the car from the owner. My client is the only person who knows that he intended and testified under oath that he wasn't trying to keep the car from the owner, but was trying to return. The prosecution was presented no real evidence to you to show that he is not true. That means that there is a reasonable doubt and thereof must find him here not guilty.
Will the jury, four persons, please stand. As the jury reads an unanimous verdict.
Yes. 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 No. Yes. No. Yes. Yes. No.
The jury finds that defendant is